Scoop, mate, what's it like being ahead of me by 6 points in the NRL fantasy ladder?
Well, I would usually say that's really great, but I mean, with this start to the season, it doesn't mean a whole lot. Two
Mm.
rounds in, I'm 38,000 rank, and I'm still only about 100 points behind all of the people up at around the top 5,000, top 1,000, who've basically done one or two things differently to me. So, like, I didn't pick up Hosking, and
Mm.
I'm probably around that price point picked up Kraz instead. There's your 100 points. It's early days. You can make that back up. Just got to trade smart. And what a week to do it. Far out.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure, mate. And obviously, you copped the Payne Haas injury. We're going to get into a lot of the strategy around what Scoop might be doing, what you might be doing in a situation where maybe you need some fullback cover for next week. Maybe you need some hooker cover with Grant. Yeah, we may need all of it, but yeah, we'll get into all of that as well, mate. But yeah, maybe a little bit around your team there. Got 783. Some of the highlights, some of the lowlights that you got going on there.
The low light is the fact that I looked at Tupanua to May and then decided, nah, because
Oh,
it's now pushed out enough cash that I can't do the two trades I want to do this week. So I'm going to
okay.
have to pick between Lussick and May and then hope they've still got enough cash rises in them moving forward, which is debatable. So it'll
Yeah.
be good fun. But yeah, so highlights, Fogarty's great. Penasini has been a pretty good pickup. He looks good with Moses there. 49 points is what we expect. He'll
Yep.
have a big game at some point as well and get some really good. Low lights, Carraz, please don't miss tackles and please get some attack. He passed one to Blake Wilson, but Blake Wilson trod on the sideline and his 7 points went back away again.
Yeah, sad. You looped well, which is good. Strange with the 44, good stuff on that. You picked well, yeah. And then Hutcho and Hughes were tied there, so that worked out well. Yeah, I suppose we're really hanging on to a Bulldogs comeback this week, aren't we?
Oh, I really wanted to throw all my Bulldogs in the bin, and then even more dumpster fires came that I got to put out. So I'm going to have to probably hold all four Bulldogs unless I stay strong and hold Tupanua this week with Payne Haas and ditch Hutchison instead, which I possibly might now just purely because I don't want to play like a Salmon and a Sam Hughes in my starting team sort of a thing. I don't think I'm
Mm.
down quite that far yet, but it'll have to be close. And for that reason, especially with Haas out now, I'm probably going to head towards Terrell May rather than Joey Lussick and just hope that like he either looks good enough to pick up next week or pray that Danny Levi scores three tries instead of one that week that Grant's out.
We say he's on track for 24 tries this season, which is funny. Um,
Oh,
yeah. So House being out 4 to 6 weeks, mate. If you've caught that news, you've been a busy man this afternoon. But Lukey being out, you did miss out on having Wong in your side, which is ideal. So you have two guys out this week. Would you be looking to trade both of them out? And is the reason you can't get both May and Lussick because of a Galvin or something like that?
yeah, I've got to now that the Haas situation has popped up, I've got one of three things to do, which people are probably in a similar boat because a
Hmm.
lot of people have Lukey, Tupanil, Wong, all those sort of players, and they want like the Lussicks, the Terrell Mays, and all that,
Hmm.
and the cheapies. So you've either got to pick one of, hold a lot of money on your bench in Haas, and then make a big decision next week. Stick a lot of cash in your bank that's not being used for points by selling Haas, getting guys you want, but also missing those really good cashy rises. Or three, just straight up miss those cashy rises instead, which is not ideal. And like if Galvin gets a 40 compared to Lussick getting a 50, Lussick's still gonna make heaps of money, but Galvin, if he keeps putting those out, it's gonna be the better money making, but you just got to decide what's best for your team points wise and value wise combined moving forward. It's a tricky situation.
Yeah, I suppose some of there's some interesting thoughts around that is obviously there's guys like Lussick, you got Josh Curran at that 540 odd price that if they both score that 50, they make some decent money. If Galvin does get a 40, there is some risk around him as well, right? As he starts to play some better teams, he could be like a 30 guy. So do you think there is some merit in going for potentially some more points in those mid-range guys this week and then look to pick up Galvin next week? Just say he gets anywhere between that 30 or 40. You might lose about 10,000 less, 15,000 max, but could get some more points from a guy in that mid-range. Do you think that's a viable strategy?
I think given that Haas is out now, it's a lot easier to do that
Yep.
because you're going to be losing points that way. And if you're just going cheap again, you're going to be probably missing out. Well, just say we got Haas and we replace him with Finifuriaki or Galvin and they scored 30.
Yep.
There's 30, 35 points gap from what you would have scored this week. So I do think bridging that gap is probably a better idea now. It's just you got to really strategize these next few weeks. Maybe you do keep that extra cash and you keep that up your sleeve, and then you turn like a Keeney or a Tuapiki into turbo next week if they disappear. So that could be a strategy to cover Pap and have a lot of points. There's so many ways you can attack this just because there's so many moving parts, so many injuries, and so many buys and sells. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's yeah. Thinking about it now, that's a fun one, obviously, to think about. You're gonna rack your brain over it, especially all the Haas owners. Thankfully, this is the time that a little bit of luck has gone my way in this first couple of weeks. I don't have to have that worry, apart from the head-to-head team. But yeah, like what do you do with that? I think you clearly have to have a strategy for next week and potentially some trades and guys that you'd want, because if you have the 300 or 400 in the bank, you can basically buy anyone, right? If you're trading out a mid-range,
Yeah.
you can go all the way up. You could
It,
go
it
to a
means
cheapie.
you can dump a dud into someone who'll score you nearly 50, and that's really powerful.
Yeah.
It fixes a lot of holes. It's just this week is carnage with a capital car, and you basically almost are looking like forced into 4 trades in 2 weeks at this stage. It's looking pretty dire. So I think it is a legit strat to have a bit of money on the bench or do something like that. Go for points to make it back up, and then decide what the heck you're going to do moving forward. Because I don't remember a season with this much fantasy relevant carnage for quite a while.
Oh, and like a round three too, for sure.
Yeah,
We've seen like round one team list be pretty wild, but yeah, round three's been crazy at that, mates. And yeah, that's a big question mark. I think just obviously just go for having that plan, and most likely you will be okay. And Mark put out a pretty cool video, just kind of said that he suggests not going for any of the top guns, like not going for a Hines, not going for a Yo. Obviously, having buys coming up. Hopgood has some issues with minutes here and there, week to week. Like he said, to get the cash and sort of bank it for next week and then go nuts. But yeah, I suppose it's a delicate dance, isn't it? Trying to get the cash rise, but obviously score well week to week, especially if you're down in the ranks that we are, right? Like we're looking for a bit of a bounce back points wise as well.
definitely. It's when I talk about year on year, if you go with like 7 or 8 basement guys, you're going to be prying at least 2 of those deadwood out of your team somehow with money because something's going to go wrong. And I mean, it's happened this year with guys we didn't expect. And now there's that money to probably fix those problems. Even though it's going to take trades, we might be able to put ourselves in a very useful position in a few weeks just because we can spread that extra money around and fix a few problems.
For sure. Mate, I got a bit excited for potential, Haas owners, sellers to be able to get themselves to Nico Hines this week with the lovely Tigers matchup and how well he played last week and scored without any real big attacking stats. What are your thoughts on that strategy? Is that viable, or
I
is it a bit short-sighted?
I definitely thought about it
Yep.
because he just somehow glided up the points. Hey,
Yeah.
King of Ghosties. Cleary hasn't quite done that yet. He's like ghosted in games and they've gone, nah, take it off him. Good
Yeah.
way. He's done it 2 weeks in a row. But yeah, I think it's a it's a legitimate strategy, but you need a plan. You need a
Okay.
big plan to fix up all of these problems that you still have. Yeah, you might make up those missing points and more for a little bit, then you got to buy, and you still got to do all these trades. So, in all honesty, you have to be either very lucky and low on injuries or really, really prepared to make some funky trades in the next few weeks if you're going to go Hines.
That makes sense. I suppose the only good thing with the Haas injury that it's not a week to week prospect, because it sounded like it was some worries of it being more than just a week and you're holding and holding and holding. So bit of peace of mind that he's out for the 4 to 6. Like, you can just sell him, right?
Yeah.
He also allows you to probably put out a few of the fires, fix a few of the issues that you may have created as well. Like if you're sitting there with even a William Fifita, these type of guys, and you've missed out on a Lukey or a Wong, like you only got kind of one or two issues. You could use Haas and then one of those cheapies that's not playing, a Jacob Gagai or something like that, to get two of those mid ranges, or fix that
Mm.
cheapie and get him to another one. Like I think it's a really good opportunity for that.
Yeah, Haas plus Gago probably gets you Lussick and May or very close.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of money in the bank or something would be helpful, mate. Let's go to then obviously the wing fullback, I suppose, next week. Like if you're sitting there with a like a Trebojevic, Pappy, and like a Tuapiki, and you don't really have anyone of cover. Like you've got a few of the centers like yourself in a Penasini, Trebojevic, Strange. So you're covered in centers. You're not covered as much in the wing fullback slot for Pappy to be out next week. Which of the gun wing fullbacks would you take?
Up until last week, I would have said Turbo 100 million%. He sort of saved his score with a few offloads though last week,
Yeah.
which was interesting to see. So, I mean, if he goes really, really strongly and has offloads in his game moving forward, far out, that'll be juicy. Yeah,
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Some of the guys we didn't expect to come out of blocks real hard, have, like Teddy's gone well. Latrell's been on fire. Um, Turbo's been pretty good too. So I think one of these guys would be good if you do have like 400K in the bank heading into next round and a Keeney or a Tuapiki isn't there. So I do think that that is probably a good way to get around it. But you also don't want to load up too crazily there at the expense of fixing up the rest of your team. So it depends on who you've got and how you're balanced.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's some value propositions, and you don't want to just waste all that value by going fix the points right now for 1 week.
Yeah. Okay. So is it more just make that trade next week rather
It
than going
depends on
now?
how much money you have left over, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably the way to play it, guys. Most people have wing fullback covered, especially with Kenny back and the like. But wait till next week. None of these guys are going to go up too much in price. Like Walshy's done really well. He'll go up again, but outside of him, like Teddy a little bit, but they're not. They're only gone up 10 to 15K. Latrell's the same, and then Ponga's on the way down. So maybe like Kalen's someone you look at as well. Mate, talk us through. You've obviously got Fogarty. Talk us through the Fogs v Moses chat. Is he Moses someone you'd be looking, maybe not yourself, but other people to purchase next week after another price drop?
Yeah, well, he's interesting. He hasn't got a crazy break even, but after a 35 and a 40 something,
Is that mid
or
60s?
around there. It's quite high now, and he's going to drop to low 700s at least. So I think there is definite cause to look to pick him up now because he is similar price to Fogarty, or going to be next week, and he's one we expect to score high 50s, right? He's got
Yep.
goals, he's got huge kick meters and all that. Fogarty has started off really well. Like SJ turned into a machine last year, but we don't know if Fogarty's going to do that. We know the pedigree of Moses. And if you don't have either, and you can fix some other things up in your team and play a Galvin or a Strange or a Hutchison at half, hopefully not Hutchison, but I mean, hopefully he has a good game against Titans as well. Um, I think there is a legit strat that you can go for Moses instead. But I mean, it also depends on how they fare this week. If Moses drops more, great. If he knocks out an 80 and he's back up to 750, it's a lot more annoying to do it. But also, you've seen the points. So it's a hard conundrum. I think it really depends on how much money you get out of Haas. The Haas money is going to be one of the most critical things in all strategies moving forward, and just how much you have in the bank.
Definitely. Yeah, that Tigers matchup looks pretty juicy after this one, that's for sure. Let's talk about there's sort of three cash cows that are available at the moment. One's a little bit more expensive in Samuel at Finu. Just give us a little chat on him, mate. Any general thoughts on Samuela?
Um, I'm not crazily convinced yet because who was it? Was it Toa? Yeah, Toa's out for
Yeah.
a while now with that injury, so there would have been some reshuffling. But yeah, I mean, good tackling, good tackling base. Um, apparently can go over for a try. There's not crazy amounts of other stuff like an offload or zero tackle breaks, but at his price, you don't need him to do too much. If he can whack out some decent minutes, he'll be good. But yeah, one that I'm probably put below the other two for now, but he with his dual and potential role, he's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, if you want to go for a risk, it is how I kind of played it. Mate, Kulakefu there. What are your thoughts on him at 293? I'm a little bit colder. I think I think he's a good buy this week, but I also think you can wait a week, and I'm going Galvin over him. What are your thoughts around him? We've looked at his stats last year. Give us your thoughts on his stats from last year. And do you think like even he's shown some improvement this year that maybe can get those scores up a bit?
I think there is potential for him to try and step up and make a claim for a starting spot or be good enough that they're forced to give him a big role in the team when Lukey's back.
Hmm.
So I think he's going to try and seize this opportunity, but I don't think he's going to play 80. You've got Gajewski on the bench,
Yep.
but he's super cheap. So even say 50, 60 minutes, he'll be all right. But there is that minutes uncertainty. And he's not the most crazy, amazing PPM of all time. So I think out of Galvin and him, he's definitely the one you can watch. Galvin's somebody who's like, you saw he ran a lot of meters. He made a lot of tackles and didn't miss a lot because he's a big body for a half.
Mm.
And so it's that he passed the eye test more than Fini Fuyaki for me. Stats wise, Fini Fuyaki is probably equal. Eye test Galvin's probably ahead, and you'll want to jump on him first if you're looking for that really cheap play that you need to make money. But yeah, now that Haas is out, I guess you don't necessarily need the cheaper option. I'd still have Galvin number one, Fini Fuyaki number two, and Fainu number three.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for that, mate. Let's move on to I guess the mids and the edges. So with Haas going down, there's a few other issues in our squads at the moment. That's kind of a position where with Wong being out, with Satili not being great, it's kind of like Terrell May and Cotter just sort of
Mm.
saving the day for us. And obviously Isaiah Yo each and every year. We need to start with him next year. Can we just make a pact?
One day Isaiah Yo will be owned by a lot of people,
Ugh.
but I mean, I don't know. Like Haas, if he comes back from this good, and you'd hope he does, he'll still have a high average. If he does what he did in 2022 to make himself cheap for 2023, then everybody's going to own him again next year. But like,
Yeah.
yeah. So Yo, great. Hopgood, potentially great, goes over for tries, but there's a lot of players in that Eels pack that could take minutes. And some that we didn't really expect. So like Tuilagi in that first week played a lot of edge minutes, and Cardi moved to lock for a bit.
Mm.
So I just don't trust his minutes moving forward when there's not a million backline injuries and they've got to reshuffle things. So Hopgood, not for me. Well, good score for anyone that does have him, but
Yeah.
not so hot on him.
What's the Carrigan thoughts with Haas being out? He does average, I believe, 62 in when he plays sort of over that 70 minutes, and he just plays a little bit better. He has to do a little bit more when Haas is out. Any
He's
thoughts
going
on
to
him
have
at
to do a lot.
764?
He's going
Yeah.
to have to do a lot. They're missing Flegler, gone to the Dolphins. They're missing Palacia. They're missing Haas. It's Fletcher, Baker, Tapau, and Jensen. Him and Jensen are going to have to do a lot of work. And so we could honestly see Carrigan 80 for a few weeks until he gets tired. And then as a low week, as soon as Haas gets back, because
Mm.
he's just pumped and he needs to have a little bit of a breather. So I think he's all right. I don't necessarily think you're probably going to want him for heaps longer than that. Like if we're in round two now, if Haas takes the full 6 rounds, it'll be like around nine, sort of around nine-ish, round 10-ish, just before Origin. Origin might be a good sell for Carrigan, but then, yeah, it's like it feels like there's not tons of value there. It's just you're buying points.
Yeah, that's fair. Any thought in buying a Baker, a Jensen, a Willison, or is it just a wait a week?
I don't know what the minutes are going to be. Jensen could end up with 50 minutes. I
Yeah,
don't know.
you'd say that would be likely. But he played low minutes the other day. He was like 32 or something and played 55 in the first week. So maybe it's just a rest. I don't know. But you'd say Jensen most likely, but he's priced up. Like he's almost 500K. So easy to easy to wait a week. Yeah. So like, do you think that's a viable strategy going Haas straight to like a Yo or any of these guys in that top range here?
If I was convinced that Souths aren't going to blow their forwards up every week, I would say Murray now that
Yeah.
they've pushed Host back in and all that. But like, I don't know anymore. They need to win some games and they're going to shake some things up until they get there. But yeah, it could be Carrigan, it could be a Murray, it could be somebody in that range. But as you said, maybe it's good to go for a little bit cheaper and hold that cash to fix things.
Could be, yeah. Adam Elliott, mate, a crazy week
Oh, I,
last week
I,
of
I
the
want to give a
double.
shout out to someone in the Discord. Jared, 2 years ago, made possibly the greatest single trade in the history of fantasy,
Okay.
selling Haas at like 950 to Elliott at 399.
Oh
And
my.
basically their prices nearly met after that injury niggle and Elliott going on that Horsburgh-esque tear at the Raiders at the lock position. So Haas to Elliott, it's shockingly reminiscent after that two try effort, but I probably still wouldn't go there.
That's funny. Also just remembered Brenton was he was at the game at Suncorp last week and met a few guys that apparently knew me and follow the channel. So shout out to those boys. I was like, well, surely they knew who you are. You guys, no, they said hello to me to talk about Jamie. So there you go. Shout out to those boys. I forgot all about it until now. So
Ah,
good on you, legends. So yeah, Elliot, just a bit. The price is so high now as well, 639 as well. Mate, what are your thoughts on Joshy Curran and that situation?
I don't trust it. Like 2 weeks in a row, it's been inflated. Maybe he does get like a 50-minute roll going forward because he's looked good, but I just don't know. He's not somebody that I'm scared will be a 55 plus point average gun if I don't jump on him right this millisecond, like Terrell May.
Yeah,
I'm more scared of May than I am of Curran.
that makes sense. Any of the edges like an Olaquatu or something you could go to? A Papali'i looked obviously got some junk
Keep
points, but he should be all right as well.
keep your eye on Papali'i. Um, he's had a down year. We've seen what he did in 2022 at the Eels. I don't think we'll go back up to that, but just keep an eye on him for that origin period because he looks all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Nico in a
But
couple of weeks when he gets back from suspension too. He'll be
yeah,
cheap.
he went down 51K, I think, on the weekend. So it was weird.
Yeah.
So it was so weird seeing 25.5 next to his name. Even Matangi down under 40 as well. Both for more. It's
Mhm.
weird to see him with obviously one game for 28.
Yeah.
Tarpany had a
If it
low
wasn't
one.
for if it wasn't for
Young.
their bye next week, I would almost say Katoa because he
Yeah.
looks pretty good. He looks pretty powerful. He's still got about a 50-point score with that HIA.
Yeah, he's an impressive man. Especially when Hughes is there, that's for sure. So that's the edge, mate. Talk us through the hooking position in general, but we obviously got Lussig's stats up here as well. He's someone on my radar this week, and given I'm a Grant owner, I do need that hooking cover
Yep.
and hopefully not Danny Levi.
There's two narratives with Lussick. Lussick is a good buy this week. He'll from here, given what he's done so far, if he holds 80 minutes for a month, he'll make you 150K or thereabouts pretty easily.
Mm,
However, if you filter his year by 2021 versus 2023, you'll see something a bit interesting. So PVL ball did really well. Lots of tackles, lots of attack, lots of running around. 53 average in about 75 minutes. 2023, you take that year and he has a low game in there. Like he hasn't missed really many tackles so far. He's looked good, but if he starts getting some negatives, don't instantly think that Joe Lussick's a guaranteed 50 plus average guy.
no.
So I'd say he's a good buy this week, and next week it becomes a bit of a gray area because if
Yep.
he shoots to 550K, he might top out at 650 and not get up to that 700.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like and obviously injuries and the like can happen, but yeah, I think if I personally didn't have the Grant situation and I had Robson, I wouldn't be looking at Lussick, I don't think.
Yep.
But like just because he's on probably close to the borderline already, but he makes it a clear buy for me because of that scenario, and he's going to make money and do a job for us as well. But I don't know. Do you agree with me that like obviously first year back last year for him after a year off overseas, but to come back, he looks way better this year than he
He
did
looks good. I'm
last.
happy that the Eels have not needed to be retired Josh Hodgson. He was a great player, but just not built for the game at that age after coming
Mm,
back in a new style. So good play, Josh Hodgson. Thank you, Joey Lussick, for your services this year so far.
yeah. And is there merit, mate, with the team just performing so poorly at the back end of last year? They look great this year. Is that would help his scores and decrease in missed tackles too?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, they've got all their forwards available. They've got Moses looking good, even though he had that sort of growing niggle. They
Yeah.
look like a team that wants to belt down the teams in front of them and get in the top eight. And honestly, they have the wood over Penrith.
Yeah.
And I wasn't surprised to see them keep it that close despite those injuries and Targo basically running through every hole he saw in that back line. They still managed to defend that scoreline for the last 25 minutes of the game, which is a pretty solid effort. So let's go the Eels, see how far they can get. Mate, I hope they'll be a bit better this year.
They definitely look good, mate. That's a good start. The hooking position, is there a world where anyone should be selling Grant next week if he went 50 again?
If you didn't have about six players that you needed to sell, yes, but no. Please,
Uh,
no, 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 no,
yeah,
no. Stop
not a
it. You've got
thing.
like a million guys that are way more important.
Yeah, definitely. So we got Lussick, mate. Then we've got Robson's the other option, Tanner Boyd, and then Coruscant. They're the other three. Any thoughts on them? Any merit for any of those guys?
I think Robson was a good guy to start with, but like a trade is worth a lot of salary cap potential loss if you're not making money. Robson's gonna slide up slowly a little bit
Hmm.
and then sit there all year. Like he might sit on 730K all year, and that's a 50K jump from where he is now. Yeah, it's more than zero, but I mean, is it super duper worth it unless you're just buying him at that price for Origin and doing that sort of stuff?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's the thing. But it's kind of the overarching part of this video is just to look for guys that can score decently well for you and make a lot of money. 100K plus is kind of where we're at the moment, right? For the next bunch of weeks, and we can kind of consolidate guns from there.
Yeah, I think so.
Easy, mate. Yeah, I suppose that's the bulk of it all there. Hooker, mid, the edge, the half position. It's clearly just Fogs, Cleary, or Hines, and then a mixture of the cheapies you got. Would you, if you didn't have too many issues, is Flanagan a guy that you would sell over Hutchison at the moment?
I want to get rid of them both, but I can't.
I give both, don't you?
Well, I
Okay.
might get rid of Hutchison this week because I need mids that aren't named do not play.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm really enjoying the fact now that even though they haven't scored well for me, but Carraz the jewel, Taylor May the jewel, oh, that just makes things so much easier for next week with that issue that people have with just having wing fullbacks and
Mhm.
not having the cover is that I can maneuver things around and that's feeling nice for me at this point. But we do need some good points, and I hope that this is the week, mate. That's for sure. Anything else you want to shout out, or kind of any topics you want to mention before we get into round three?
This is one of the most interesting starts to year I've seen.
Mm.
Don't panic your head off if your rank doesn't start with a one or four digits.
We
Both
can start.
Jamie and me are well
It could be
back.
100,000.
Oh yeah, both Jamie and me are well back. Super Coach, everyone is well back. Unless
Yeah.
you got really lucky. Like if you have Hosking versus if you have not Hosking is the difference between a lot of points between teams because a lot of similar options have been just doing about the same. So and you've noticed we're 2 weeks in and our salary cap has gone up 200, 300K,
Yeah.
400K, nothing basically. So be patient, it'll come. Don't delete app just yet.
Yeah.
Not just yet. If we get another three next week, maybe then.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just Hosking, mate. Any thoughts on him? Is just a clear hold this week?
I
Suss it out
want to
next week.
know the inner machinations of Ricky Stewart's mind. I really would. But as a non-owner, I'm sort of grateful. I still think he'll probably get 50 minutes,
Yep.
something like that. He's just too good of a player not to. Whitehead on the edge for a bit, then move into the middle. And then when Horse comes back, I don't even know. It'll change again.
Yeah, for sure. Cheese this week, kind of a few people asking me if they should sell him. It's just a hold, right? Hopefully he gets a few extra minutes. He's been playing well.
Yeah, he's good for their team. It'll just be interesting to see do they persist with such huge minute middles like Collins, May over 50, Radley 80.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot of huge middle minutes eaten up. So that you've got to something's got to give.
How good's his base been?
Hmm.
His PPM's been incredible without any attacking stats. It's absolutely crushed my I've got him in Supercoach and he's doing well in fantasy. We're just getting smashed in Supercoach. That's for sure. I suppose yeah, any maybe thoughts made on are you fine with people holding like a Wong to loop as well?
You can hold one of these guys for sure.
Yeah.
Um, like there's a good chance, there's a very good chance that a high proportion have Haas, Wong, and Lukey, and therefore you're going to
Yeah.
have somebody. So it's fine. If you're stuck between Lukey and Wong, pick the one that plays later, so you have more opportunity to loop if you don't have a buy player in the Dolphins, and then just go from there.
Yeah, definitely. This is my squad here, the head-to-head one, and I have made the one trade Haas to May this week, and then the second one it will be Lukey. It's just who we decide to go to, and that's my thing here. It's got like I got Tane Tuapiki, I've got Keeney. Both were unsure how long they're going to be left in this side. I have this feeling that both of them will be there next week, and then I'll be fine. But if one of them is not, having Pap there is where this issue comes for myself, given I've got
Mm.
Sully as center, Trebojevic, and Ethan Strange as the center cover. It's like, well, I would then have to trade next week. But as we kind of said, right, we can make that decision next week, can't we? And get one of those guns with that extra cash if we need to, right?
Yep, 350K in the bank for you. It'll probably be similar-ish for me, and we'll just play it by ear, guys. This is a very strange week. One of the most carnage-esque weeks we've seen in a little bit that isn't right at the end of the season. So
Mm.
yeah, holding holding a Haas to get the cheapies or holding a lot of money or doing something ridiculous isn't going to be so ridiculous this week.
Yeah, well, like if I go Lukey to Galvin, that's almost
Yeah,
600K in the bank.
that's half a mil. It's crazy.
Yeah, which is wild. And then, yeah, the other option is that you can go all the way up as well. Like that's 840K that I could spend. So it's like hard to see that, oh, I can grab the hop goods and these ones, or I go to Galvin. It's like it feels weird. But I do think just work out what you think's best for your side. It's all going to be a little bit different. Some just want the points and they love having hop good or something, and that's cool too. So yeah, thanks for that, mate. Appreciate your thoughts, and I wish us both the best of luck heading into round 3. Hey,
Yeah.
we need
Hopefully
it.
only a couple more rounds before we're into the top 10,000.
Oh,
Us
we're getting there.
premium fantasy coaches.
10,000 at a time, baby. I think I went up 30,000 this week, so we're good.
Yeah, nice.